Cooked with more taste than time. Sargento of Wisconsin.
Weather partly sunny and mild on through the weekend. Highs tomorrow should be in the 60s. Highs Sunday in the 70s. Next week will be turning cooler with a chance of rain Monday and Tuesday. Now we rejoin the CBS network for the Thomas confirmation hearings with Anita Hill still on the witness stand.
Steps in the process. What we were talking about was process. What could happen along the way? What were the possibilities? Would there be a full hearing? Would there be questioning from the FBI? Would there be a questioning by some individual members from the Senate? We're not talking about or even speculating that simply alleging this would cause someone to withdraw.
Well, if your answer now turns on process, all I can say is that it would have been much shorter had you said at the outset that Mr. Brudney told you that if you came forward, Judge Thomas might withdraw. That is the essence as to what occurred.
No, it is not. I think we differ on our interpretation of what I said.
Well, what am I missing here, Professor Hill?
Let the witness speak in her own words rather than having words put in her mouth.
Mr. Chairman, I object to that. I object to that vociferously. I'm asking questions here. If Senator Kennedy has anything to say, let him participate in this hearing.
Now, let it... Let's everybody calm down. Professor Hill, give your interpretation to what was asked by the senator, if you would, and then he can ask you further questions.
My interpretation is...
Speaking of machines, so we can all get you back.
Okay. I understood Mr. Specter's question to be, what kinds of conversation did I have regarding this information? I was attempting, in talking to the staff, to understand how the information would be used, what I would have to do, what might be the outcome of such a use. We talked about a number of possibilities, but there was never any indication that by simply making these allegations that the nominee would withdraw from the process. No one ever said that, and I did not say that anyone ever said that. We talked about making the form that the statement would come in. We talked about the process that might be undertaken post-statement, and we talked about the possibilities of outcomes. And included in that possibility of outcomes was that the committee could decide to review the points and that the nomination, the vote could continue as it did.
So that at some point in the process, Judge Thomas might withdraw.
Again, I would have to respectfully say that is not what I said. That was one of the possibilities, but it would not come from my simply making an allegation.
Professor Hill, is that what you meant when you said earlier, as best I could write it down, that you would control it so it would not get to this point?
Pardon me?
Is that what you meant when you responded earlier to Senator Biden, that the situation would be controlled, quote, so that it would not get to this point in the hearings?
Of a public hearing. In entering into these conversations with the staff member, what I was trying to do was control this information, yes, so that it would not get to this point.
Thank you very much.
Now, what we'll do is we'll begin, and I thank you, Senator. Professor Hill, with your continued indulgence, what we'll do is we'll now yield to my colleagues in alternating and limit their questions to 5 minutes, if I may. And I would begin with my friend from Massachusetts, Senator Kennedy.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just take a moment. I know this has been an extraordinary long day for you, for Professor Hill. It obviously has been for Judge Thomas as well. And I know for your family. And I just want to pay a tribute to both your courage in this whole procedure, and for your eloquence, and for the dignity in which you've conducted yourself. And it's quite clear from observing your comments for the anguish and pain which you've had to experience today and share with millions of Americans. This has been a service. We clearly have to make a judgment, but it certainly, I think, has been a very important service. And let me just say, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's been enormously important to millions of Americans. I don't think that this country is ever going to look at sexual harassment the same tomorrow as it has ever any time in its past. And if we are able to make some progress on it, I think history books will show that it's, to a very important extent, it's because of your action. The viciousness of harassment is real. It's experienced by millions of people, I hope, as a form of sex discrimination, and I think all of us are hopeful that we can make progress on it. I just want you to know that I believe that you will have made an important contribution if we do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Thurmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I appointed Senator Specter to question Professor Hill and those supporting her, so I will now yield my time to him.
Well, with an additional yielding, Mr. Chairman, I would just join in thanking Professor Hill for coming forward. I would join in the comment that this proceeding has been illuminating to tell America what is the law on sexual harassment. That is something which had not been known, and from what I have heard in the last few days, there has been a lot of change in conduct in the workplace in this country. I just would have wished in retrospect that we had done this earlier, and that this educational process had not come in this forum on a Supreme Court nominee at this stage. But you have answered the questions, and I join in thanking you for that.
Senator Metzenbaum.
Ms. Hill, I couldn't help but think of my own 4 daughters as you sat there, and thought to myself how much courage and commitment, concern, but even more than anything, the valor to come before the United States Senate, speak out in areas so sensitive and I'm sure so difficult for you to talk about. And I don't know what impact your testimony will have on the confirmation process, but I know that your testimony will have a tremendous impact on this nation from henceforth. The women of this country, I'm certain, owe you a fantastic debt of gratitude for bringing this issue of sexual harassment to the fore. But as one of those 98 men in the United States Senate, I think I speak for all of us, and I say we owe you a debt of gratitude as well for bringing this issue up to the fore in a more striking, more sympathetic, more concerned manner than ever before. I think you've made this nation, men and women alike, more enlightened, more aware, more sensitive, and the nation will never be the same thanks to you. Thank you.
Senate, there will be order in chamber, and I'm serious when I say any any outburst at all, no matter how small, will result in the police removing whomever does from the chamber. Now, Senator Hatch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been pleased to sit here and listen today, and I just want to say one thing, that I apologize to you on behalf of our committee that you had to be heard under these circumstances, because had the committee considered this matter, and I have to say Chairman Biden and the ranking member Thurmond, when they heard about this the first time, they immediately ordered this FBI investigation, which was a very right thing to do. It's the appropriate thing to do. They did what every other chairman and ranking member have done in the past. And the investigation was done, and it was a good investigation. Then Chairman Biden notified everybody on his side, and many of us were notified as well. Any member of the committee, before we voted, could have put this over for a week for consideration, if they were concerned. Any member could have insisted on at least an executive session where neither of you would have had to have appeared in public, or any member could have insisted on an open session. The committee could have voted. These FBI reports are extremely important, and they have raw data, raw information. They take down what people tell them, and that's why they are not to be leaked to the press or anywhere else, and that's why these rules are so important. And had an appropriate, fair procedure been followed, you would not have been dragged through the media and through all of these other things that both of you have been dragged through, that both of you have suffered from, as you have. And I have to say that I hope I never see that happen again to anybody in any confirmation proceeding on the Hill, let alone a confirmation for a justice of the Supreme Court of the United States of America. Now, having said that, I wish you well, and I won't make any further comments at this time.
Thank you very much. Senator DeConcini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Professor Hill, I join in realizing the difficulty of today. It's very obvious, and I appreciate that immensely. Sexual harassment is not as new as maybe some members seem to think it is. I just remember as a young boy my mother telling me about sexual harassment and her job, and losing her job. She was 22 years old. So I grew up with that in my mind, and she mentioned it several times as I grew in age. Had dinner with her night before last, and she got choked up just telling me again about it 60 years later. So it is a subject that is very sensitive. Obviously, men have a more difficult time, I believe, of understanding it. But I do believe there are many men in this Senate and the House of Representatives and other political offices that indeed are sensitive as much as they can be as a man. Now, with that, one of the areas that intrigued me today was Senator Heflin's questions of motives. And I'm not at all indicating any diminution of your motive. What I am interested in your question, in your answers to some of those. But before I ask you that, do you see anything positive out of what you have been through here today in the last week or so, last few days, this ordeal, other than increasing the awareness of sexual harassment in the workplace? Is there any single thing you see more significant than that coming out of this?
Yes, Senator.
What do you see as the most significant thing coming out of this unfortunate experience that you have had to go through now, and I mean the public part of it?
Other than creating awareness, I see that the information is going to be fully explored. The information that I provided will be fully explored. It will be given a full hearing. In addition, I think that coming out, my coming forward, may encourage other people to come forward, other people who have had the same experiences, who have not been able to talk about them.
That would be raising the awareness of sexual harassment.
Well, raising the awareness, but also giving people courage.
And giving people courage to step forward and do what you didn't do 10 years ago or 6 years ago or 2 years ago, but you're doing today.
Yes.
Now, is your motive also to attempt to clear your name from any degrading publicity that has occurred? Do you feel put upon? Do you
Coming
feel
here today?
exposed? Do you feel injured and damaged through this, even though you obviously have committed yourself to proceed with it?
You mean my motive in coming here today? Or
Yes.
something that I think will be a positive thing from coming here today?
No, I mean, is your motive also to help clarify your own position on sexual harassment because of the publicity that has brought this up to the forefront? Is that one of your motives? Is that one of your reasons you came forward? In other words, is your reputation, was your reputation one of the reasons you came forward? You felt that your reputation was being degraded or impugned by the fact that this was printed all over the press and that people were making counter charges and questioning your motives and what have you? Is that one of the reasons?
Well, I definitely, today, coming here today, yes, I did want to accomplish that. There were a number of very ugly and nasty things that have been said, and I did want to come forward and tell my side.
Do you think, now having told your side and responded to these questions, that your reputation from your standpoint could ever be fully restored?
Not in the minds of many, never. It will not be.
And in your opinion, Professor Hill, is there any single group or entity that you think caused more damage to you? I'm interested in your perception. It seems to me that those who leaked this information certainly caused damage, and that the press, in my opinion, is on trial because they didn't have to print this, but they elected that they could do it, and in this country they can print anything they want, true or false, as we all know. And then the Senate made a judgment here, first at the committee and then in the full Senate, to put it off, and I think that is certainly on trial. Obviously, Judge Thomas is on trial, though this is not a trial. You are on trial in the sense of the credibility here. Is there any one of these that stick out in your mind? Is the committee more culpable for causing you to have to come forward? Is the press more culpable? Or is it all just a big bunch of stuff that we got to deal with and everybody's culpable?
I think it's just the reality, Senator, of this situation, the nature of this complaint. And I cannot point my finger at any one entity and say that you are responsible for this.
But you said earlier, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you did not want today to be what it is, that you had hoped that you could get the information to this committee, and ultimately you agreed that your name could be used among the committee members, that you had hoped that that would be sufficient for the members to make a judgment, and that you would not have to do what you're doing today. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Now, that didn't happen, or we wouldn't be here today. And would you repeat why you think we're here? Why did you have to come forward and make this public presentation when you had hoped to do so and to bring this information without having to do what you're doing today?
Well, I think that there are a number of factors. I think that however the material was leaked, that was one factor. I believe that the press is a factor, but I think in addition that, excuse me, that the information is just going before the public that wants to know about this. And so I think that again, that there are a variety of situations and factors that caused this to occur today.
Let me ask you this then, if I can, Professor Hill. If this information had not been leaked, would you have suggested that you come forward and do this in a public forum?
No.
If the press had not then published it or read it to you and left you with the distinct impression they were going to publish it, if they had not done that, would you have felt obligated to come forward in a public sense other than what you'd already done?
I do not believe that I would have come forward.
You would not have come forward.
I do not believe
So
now that I would have.
is it safe to say that because the information was first leaked and then made public, that you felt that you no longer could proceed with what you felt was proper by letting this information available to us, but not in a public forum? Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I have
Now, if you have
other
another question, you go ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Hill, I just, if I can, I won't be very much longer. The concern I also have is when you were at the Department of Education and these, in my terms, god-awful things occurred, grotesque, ugly, I don't know how else I can depict them, and obviously they were extremely offensive to you. When that happened to you, and you obviously did not want them to continue or participate, and you attempted to inform the person that you didn't want that, I have a difficult time understanding, and it's obviously because I'm not a woman and have not had that kind of personal experience. I have a difficult time understanding, even though you didn't have another job or anything out there, how you could tolerate that. And I realize that's part of the whole problem of sexual harassment in the job place, is because women tolerate it. And maybe you explained this sufficiently, but if you wouldn't mind repeating to me what went through your mind, why, number one, you would stay there after this happened several times, and number two, even though it ceased for a few months, why you would proceed on to another job with someone that hadn't just asked you out and pressed you, but had gotten into the explanations and exploratives and of the anatomy and what have you that you pointed out to us today.
Well, I think it is very difficult to understand, Senator. And in hindsight, it is even difficult for me to understand. But I have to take the situation as it existed at that time. At that time, those staying seemed the only reasonable choice. At that time, staying was the way that, in a way, a choice that I made because I wanted to do the work. I, in fact, believed that I could make that choice to do the work, and that's what I wanted to do. And I did not want to let that kind of behavior control my choices. So I attempted to end the behavior, and for some time, the behavior did stop. I attempted to make that effort. And so the choice to continue with the same person to another agency involved a belief that I had stopped the behavior that was offensive.
Is it safe to say then, Ms. Hill, the readings that I've done in this area and been exposed to professionals who counsel and do this, that one term is that you stuffed this inside you and went on with your life because you just were willing to kind of stuff it and keep it from exploding? Is that a safe feeling? Because I don't know. Is that...
I did repress...
We all go through that in different things that I think we all do, that we stuff certain things in and don't explode, or take reaction. Is that one way of describing what you did?
I did repress a number of my feelings about it to allow myself to go on and to continue.
It's safe to say that you did this for a long period of time.
Yes, I did.
And you obviously saw Chairman Thomas move on through bigger and better positions and to be appointed to an appellate court judge and not take any action. Did you at that time again repress it and have to keep it down? Do you recall going through that any other times?
Well, at some point over the last few years, or at various points, I think that I have dealt with many of my repressed feelings about this. I've just dealt with them on my own. On your own.
You didn't hire any or solicit any counseling or any assistance. You just dealt with it on your own.
On my own.
And finally, we're here today where it's all over, so to speak. It's all out. Not that by any means there won't be repercussion, but you finally have let it all out.
Well, that is my feeling, but one has to consider that even before this point, I had dealt with the feelings of humiliation, realizing that none of this was my fault, and had dealt with a sense that I was helpless to confront this kind of a situation again. So many of the feelings have been dealt with.
Yeah, and the fact that you admit that in retrospect maybe you should have done something, you have concluded that it is all someone else's fault, none of it is your fault.
Yes.
Is that your frame of mind?
That is my frame of mind.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the additional
time. Thank you very much. Senator Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, there are two additional documents here, and I'm asking, and take your advice, from the two FBI agents who, if this has been furnished for over 2 hours under the rules, the affidavit from the two FBI agents indicating the inconsistencies as expressed by Professor Hill this morning, is that not appropriate?
That is appropriate. The inconsistencies are not of all that much consequence. At some point, maybe we should read it. I think it may be helpful for you to read the entire thing in the record.
I only have 5 minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Well, you go ahead and put in the record, and I will read them because they're not of much consequence. But well, I think we should. Let me put it this way: I think people should know what they say.
Well, I think that they should know that the witness did not say anything to the FBI about the described size of his penis, the description of the movie Long Dong Silver, about the pubic hair in the Coke story, and describing giving pleasure to women with oral sex. That is not part of the original FBI report. And the agents are simply saying that there was no pressure upon the witness, and they specifically say the woman witness, or the woman FBI agent particularly, said that she was quite clear that that she did not care whether it was general or specific. The interviewing special agent, a woman, that said if the subject was too embarrassing, she did not have to answer. But that was Professor Hill's statement. But the special agent said that the other agent, apologized for the sensitivity of the matter, but advised Professor Hill that she should be as specific as possible and give details. She was further advised that if the questions were too embarrassing, Special Agent Luton would leave the room and she could discuss the matter with Special Agent Jameson. And so I think that's appropriate only from the standpoint that you describe in your statement so poignantly, that these were disgusting things and yet they did not appear in the FBI report. That's enough. We'll enter it into the record.
I realize it's a bit unusual and the way we're doing this. My recollection was the witness had acknowledged that they did not appear in the report and acknowledged that she had not said that to the agents as well.
That is true.
Mr. Chairman, you have your opportunity to...
No, I just want to, because this is unusual. She hadn't had a chance to see it. That's the reason I mention it now. But please continue.
You're very fair. let me ask you, I think both of you say that both Judge Thomas and you say you never met each other until 1981. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Weren't you both members of the Black Republican Congressional Staff Association?
No.
You never were?
No, I never was.
Well, I don't have enough time to go into that one. I had heard you were and that you knew him there, and the other people stated that, and perhaps that's what I was advised by a person that called me who knew you both and was there with you both. But that's enough. I'm not leaving that out there as some sinister thing. I'm just trying to find out if you knew each other before, because I heard that because he knew you there and respected you and enjoyed you there and found you very professional, that it was there he made the contact to then bring you to the Department of Education.
Which group is this?
The Black Republican Congressional Staff Association.
No, I'm not a member of that. I've never been a member of that group.
In the 70, 79, or 80, sometime in that
I was
time.
in law school in 79 and 80.
80 and 81?
In 80, I graduated from law school in 1980 and went to work in private practice here in Washington, D.C.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. That was presented to me. Now, I heard Howard Metzenbaum say, and you have presented yourself and your testimony in an extraordinary way. I did think that Senator Specter pointed out some inconsistencies. But like Howard, I thought too of my daughter, my rainbow of life. And I would be outraged if such alleged conduct occurred directed to her. And then I've had the terrible pain of also thinking of my sons, raised by a very enlightened mother, responsive, still kiss their old man goodnight and things like that, and rather expensive, stalwart boys. And where that kind of conduct could lead them. Very troubling for me, because all we've heard for 103 days is about a most remarkable man, and nobody has come forward, and they scoured his every shred of life, and nobody but you and another witness apparently who's alleging no sexual harassment has come forward. And so maybe it seems to me you didn't really intend to kill him, but you might have. And that's pretty heavy. I don't care if you're a man or a woman, to know that 43 years or 35 years of your life or 60 years of your life where no one has corroborated what is a devastating charge, kind of a singular torpedo blow below the waterline, and he sinks. Well, 103 days of accumulated things never penetrated the armor. So I guess I would just say it is a very troubling thing to me. It really is. And, you know, leave out who leaked what to who or what media person let it out. That's all will be hashed. But let me tell you, if what you say this man said to you occurred, why in God's name, when he left his position of power or status or authority over you, and you left it in 1983, why in God's name would you ever speak to a man like that the rest of your life?
That's a very good question. And I'm sure that I can't not answer that to your satisfaction. That is one of the things that I have tried to do today. I have suggested that I was afraid of retaliation. I was afraid of damage to my professional life. And I believe you have to understand that this response And that's one of the things that I have come to understand about harassment, that this kind of response is not atypical. And I can't explain. It takes an expert in psychology to explain how that can happen. But it can happen, because it happened to me.
Well, it just seems that so incredible to me that you would not only have visited with him twice after that period and after he was no longer able to manipulate you or to destroy you, that you then not only visited with him but took him to the airport and then 11 times contacted him. That part of it appalls me. I would think that these things, what you describe, are so repugnant, so ugly, so obscene, that you would never have talked to him again, and that is a most contradictory and puzzling thing for me.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, Professor Hill, let me say to your parents, you have a daughter you ought to be very, very proud of. I'm sure you're proud of your whole family. I want to underscore what has been said by my colleagues, that you have shown great courage and you have handled yourself with dignity. And you have lifted the level of consideration of this whole question of sexual harassment as no one has done before in the history of our country. And no matter what happens on the nomination, I think you have performed a real public service. On the question of sexual harassment, you and I know, and the members of this committee know, that physical contact is not necessary for sexual harassment. But I've had two people tell me over the phone that there couldn't have been sexual harassment because there was no physical contact. If I can use another analogy that I think people would understand, if you were to receive the kind of language over the telephone that you received in an office, would you consider that an obscene phone call?
Yes.
And I think everyone understands obscene phone calls. Let me just two totally disconnected questions beyond this. You say in your statement, in February 1983, I was hospitalized for 5 days on an emergency basis for an acute stomach pain, which I attributed to stress on the job. One of the things we have to do in this committee, and my colleagues in the Senate have to do, is to make an evaluation who is telling the truth. This is something objective that happened out there. But when you say, which I attributed to stress on the job, did your physician also suggest this as a possibility?
The physician suggested that it could be stress related. They could not identify the nature of the illness. They couldn't give a medical diagnosis. So the physician did suggest that it might be stress related.
And then finally, and this has been partially touched upon, but there are those who say the timing of this is all some kind of a plot, is the term I hear over and over. I recall calling you the day before our committee voted when we talked about the possibility of distributing this to your statement to members of the Senate. And I said, you can't do that and keep it confidential and keep your name confidential. I sensed that you were really agonizing on this whole thing, and I think I sensed correctly for obvious reasons. But this thing gradually built from the time you first contacted or had contact with the members of the Senate staff and Senate committee. Was there at any point anyone who suggested if you hold this out till the last minute, you could have a great impact on this process.
No one ever suggested that, not at all.
And then finally, let me just make a suggestion. You're always giving assignments to students at the University of Oklahoma Law School. If I could give you and your fellow members at the University of Oklahoma Law School and your law students an assignment. We face a very difficult problem, and it is not just with the Thomas nomination. How do we deal with a charge someone makes that is a substantial charge, but that person says, I don't want my name used publicly, made publicly? We should not simply ignore it. On the other hand, how are you fair to a nominee? This is a struggle that this committee has gone through and the Senate is going through. I would be interested in you and your colleagues taking a look at that, sending a letter to members of this committee. But again, I thank you. I think you have performed a great public service. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Grassley.
Professor Hill, let me at the outset be very candid and tell you that even though the issues that have been discussed here this afternoon and this morning are very, very important, if I had to ask some of these questions that were asked of you today, I would not be able to do that. That's just not my nature. But I have one question and a couple comments, and this is in regard to you're testifying that you were approached by Senate staff members about disclosing these allegations. My question is whether or not any other individuals or any other organizations other than those who you've publicly stated today or otherwise, or Senator Specter stated, whether any other individuals or organizations have approached you about disclosing these matters to the Judiciary Committee anytime since Judge Thomas was nominated by the President on July the 1st.
No, no other organizations or individuals have approached me to disclose this to anyone. Do you mean prior to the contact from or even after that? No one has said anything?
Any time during July, August, or September, other than those names that have already been discussed here today?
No, no one has urged me to do that or even approached me about it.
Okay. Now, a couple points that I would like to make, and I suppose I'm making these more for my colleagues than I am for anybody else, but one of the hardest parts of this discussion for me is the fact that if any of our Senate employees had a complaint of sex harassment, that individual would not have the same remedy that you had available to you, Professor Hill, when you were an employee of government, particularly EEOC, although I know you chose not to make that and pursue that remedy. Because like so many laws that we pass, the United States Senate has exempted itself, or we have exempted ourselves as employers, from the coverage of Title VII, including the EEOC rules governing sex harassment. That is a situation that I hope that the Senate will soon change so that our employees will be treated fairly just like any other employees. On another point, there's been much said, and of course each of us on this committee have had to deal with this as the press to ask us how come we didn't consider all these things prior to voting this out of committee. So that deals with the process of the Judiciary Committee. People are asking how we could have let your statements slip past us. How could we have had the committee vote without airing this matter? Those are valid questions, and let me say that I'm going to work towards ensuring that this never happens again. I realize, of course, that our committee gets hundreds, maybe even thousands of allegations in a nomination like this one. and we rely upon our chairman and ranking member to determine which ones need investigation and which one might be coming from cranks and crackpots. They determined this one needed investigation, and they called in the FBI, but somewhere along the process, something broke down. So I would like to work with the chairman and ranking member and other colleagues to establish a new ground rule. Whenever the FBI is dispatched, every committee member should be notified about the nature of the allegation. And when the FBI has completed its work, every committee member should be notified and have access to that report. And a determination by the committee should be made as to how we need to proceed with any allegations. A rule like this should ensure, once and for all, that even an 11th hour charge like yours has been fully considered. I yield the floor. Or you can comment if you want to.
I would like to, for a moment, revisit your first question. I'm keenly aware that I want to be certain of my answer. The first question, it was whether or not anyone had contacted me to urge me to come forward with this. No, no one did that. Ms. Hirschner did contact me and reminded me of the situation, and we discussed the fact that we had talked about this earlier years, but she did not urge me to come forward at all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Of course, the state of the law actually is that women, even in these kinds of situations, don't have adequate remedies.
And once again, we'll break away from the hearings for local news. We'll return when something of importance happens. Connie, what about the weekend?
No problem there. It's just absolutely beautiful. It's a forecast you'll enjoy listening to, and a weekend you're going to enjoy too. Weather's right after this break.
Wouldn't it be great if she finally came over for a beer?
Nice place.
And you offered her a Keystone, the premium beer in a can that tastes like beer in a bottle because of Keystone's specially lined can. But she said,
I only drink dry beer.
Oh, wouldn't it be great if Keystone made a dry beer?
We do.
Introducing Keystone Dry. Dry brewed and cold filtered for a great new bottled beer taste in a can. Now, wouldn't that be great?
Introducing the new resource in hydration, Hydrative Continuous Hydrating Resource from the laboratories of Lancôme, Paris. Instantly, this velvety formula inundates the skin with hydration. Used daily, Hydrative creates a continuous moist environment in your skin. Hydrative Continuous Hydrating Resource.
The new resource in hydration. Lancôme, Paris.
Les Fleurs en Gris, your gift with any $15 Lancôme purchase. Available at Yonkers.
So my brother-in-law says, give me 3 good reasons why. So I say, okay. 1, Caprice has more family room. 2, Caprice has anti-lock brakes and a driver's side airbag standard. And 3, nobody offers those safety features for less money than Caprice, and most don't offer them at all.
What did he say to that?
Nothing. Oh, I love it when that happens.
You can't argue with the facts. And now with $12.50 cash back, Caprice is even more affordable. Take a look at your Central Iowa Chevy dealer.
Absolutely beautiful afternoon out there. It's still 71 degrees under a clear sky. We do have a bit of a northwesterly breeze at 14 miles an hour. 41 is the dew point, 34% humidity. Barometer steady at 29.86. Obviously very dry air and plenty of sunshine with a nice little warming trend. Eastern Iowa mid-60s, western Iowa upper 60s with 80 degrees over in Omaha Council Bluffs. It was 74 here in Des Moines. Normal high is 68. And around the rest of the Midwest, the warming trend was very evident all the way down into the southwest. They set about a dozen records down there. Looks as though that same thing might happen today. Cooler temperatures along the East Coast. They were in the 50s, and they've also had some of the cloud cover that's been rolling across Florida and the southern Atlantic seaboard, occupying much of New England now. Widely scattered showers all the way from the Ohio Valley up there. But the whole Midwest all the way out to the Northwest is mostly clear, and this is where our weekend is shaping up. Until that next weather system, that's a Pacific one, it'll be coming our way, and we may begin to see the effects of it as early as Sunday. There are also some very strong northerly winds up here. That's in sharp contrast with the warm temperatures, and the front now draped across Iowa is kind of a dividing line between what's going on to our west and what's happening right here. But still, a great weekend ahead. Most of our lows tonight in the 40s. degrees with a mostly clear sky. And tomorrow, light winds gradually changing from the north to the southeast, highs lower 60s to the mid-70s. Here's how it looks for central Iowa. Tonight, we'll see partly cloudy skies, low in the mid-40s, northwesterly breeze. That's going to be shifting around, and by tomorrow afternoon, we'll start off with a northerly breeze, but winds will be southerly by afternoon. Highs mid to upper 60s, mostly sunny skies. Then partly cloudy Saturday night with a low near 50, and partly sunny with a high in the mid-70s. However, as they say, it ain't over till it's over, but it's over next week. A chance of rain Monday and Tuesday with highs in the 60s and lower 70s, dropping to the 40s and 50s by Wednesday. Boy, enjoy the weekend.
Iowa's weather always changeable.
It certainly is.
Thank you, Connie. National amateur athletic officials came to Des Moines today. They're considering Des Moines and Drake University as a possible site for the AAU National Junior Olympic Games. The games could attract 5,000 young athletes from all over the country and thousands of spectators. Des Moines is one of 6 locations being considered. Iowa's AAU chairman says Central Iowa would be a good choice. The Junior Olympics would be held in Des Moines from 1993 through 1995. It isn't known now when the final decision will be made.
Other sports news, John Walters sitting in for Heidi Soliday, who's over in Wisconsin for the Hawkeye game. Doesn't seem like there's been a Friday night this year that there hasn't been a big high school game going.
Another great matchup tonight. Jeff Johnson is standing by live in Urbandale.
John, it's a couple of longtime rivals tonight. Newton taking on Urbandale. Back with a preview in just a moment.
Every second of an asthma attack can feel like an eternity. That's why there's Primatene Mist. Primatene opens clogged breathing tubes in as fast as 15 seconds. Primatene Mist, the fastest type relief known.
My hemorrhoids hurt so much, I was afraid I needed surgery. But my doctor said they weren't serious, and it's time I used Preparation H.
Preparation H helps shrink swelling of inflamed hemorrhoidal tissues and often relieves pain, itching, and burning for hours. Doctor recommended Preparation H.
Hey, andale, to make it easy today. Get some fajitas to go. The price is so low.
McDonald's introduces chicken fajitas, only 99 cents each.
With pepper, cheese, and pollo. That's chicken. Fresh tomatoes and cebolla. Did you say onions?
An unexpected taste at an unexpected price.
McDonald's today.
Chicken fajitas, only 99 cents each at McDonald's today.
One of the state's best high school football rivalries will be renewed tonight in Urbandale. The undefeated Jayhawks will take on once-beaten Newton. Jeff Johnson is standing by with a live report.
John, just a great night for a great high school football matchup. Number 5 Newton against 7th-rated Urbandale. Now, one of the frustrating things for Newton opponents is trying to figure out how to stop their powerful running game. They know exactly what's coming. Newton's going to load up that running game and bring it right at you. As I mentioned, though, the tough part is figuring out how to stop it.
We are primarily a running team. We're trying to do some different things with our running game to, make us a little more versatile, tougher to defend. But, that's our basic game plan. We're going to come at you and then try and mix in play action.
Well, the only changes we've seen are in personnel. I think they've done the same thing over and over the years, and they've had success with it. And it's tough. There's no doubt about that. And I think the best way to try and stop their offense is to keep their offense off the field if you can do that. But that's tough because they've got a good defense, too.
7:45 is game time tonight. Come on out and take a look at the game. If you can't, join us for highlights on the news at 10. You definitely won't be alone if you come to the game. 6,000 to 7,000 are expected tonight. In fact, some of the Newton fans were lined up at the gate this afternoon at 3:30. John?
Jeff, we mentioned there's been some great games in this series over the years, but last year was the exception, wasn't it?
That's right. Newton prevailed in that game 52-7. Of course, we talked with Denny Frericks this afternoon. He says he has several players back on this year's team that remember that night quite vividly, so they're determined to make it a better effort this year.
Okay, thanks very much, Jeff. And the Newton-Urbandale game highlights our Hopkins matchups of the night. We'll also have coverage of the Dowling-Ankeny game and Lincoln at Indianola tonight on the late news. One of golf's most coveted records was equaled today at the Sunrise Club in Las Vegas. Chip Beck, the man with the best name in golf, carded a 13 under par 59, matching the professional standard set by Al Geiberger 14 years ago. Beck was 11 under par through 16 holes, then on his 17th, another birdie. That moved him to 12 under par. Now on the final hole, it's Chip Beck needing another birdie to match Geiberger, and look at the 8-iron approach shot to the green. He will knock the sucker within 5 feet of the cup to set up another birdie attempt. And lo and behold, Beck would nail the birdie to finish with a 59 at 20 under for the tournament. Beck is tied with Bruce Litsky for the Las Vegas Invitational lead. And baseball's postseason games continue to be overshadowed by off-the-field moves. The New York Mets made it official today, announcing Jeff Torborg as their new manager. That's the 5th managerial change in the last 5 days. There's speculation in Chicago that the White Sox will replace Torborg with Jim Lefevre, who Seattle fired yesterday. Follow that, and the American League Championship Series resumes tonight in Toronto. The Twins and Blue Jays are tied at a game apiece. Minnesota will send 20-game winner Scott Erickson to the mound. Toronto will counter with left-hander Jimmy Key. Coverage on TV8 beginning at 7:30. And one other note, Roy Marble, the former Hawkeye, cut today by the Detroit Pistons.
With all the managerial changes, you don't know which cliche to use. Who's on first, or it ain't over till it's over, right?
That's exactly right.
Thank you, John. We'll be back with a look at the markets and more in just a moment.
There's one in every family. The free spirit who's always on the move. The practical one who does everything right. And of course the one that feels it has to carry the weight of the world around. The Eagle Summit family. At prices this affordable, there's room for one in every family.
See your Central Iowa Jeep Eagle dealer, where you can expect the best.
Touchstone Pictures presents the movie critics are calling a winner, a 10, emotionally explosive. Paradise has superb performances. Melanie Griffith is exceptional. It's Don Johnson like you've never seen him before. Don't miss the movie critics are calling the best film of the year, a masterpiece. Melanie Griffith, Don Johnson, Paradise, rated PG-13.
There's a new man around the house. On the next Golden Girls.
Tonight at 6:30 on TV8.
In other news today, Iowa Senator Tom Harkin walked a picket line in New Hampshire. Harkin continued his campaign for the Democratic presidential nomination in Concord. He joined a union picket line and told workers he favors changes in U.S. economic policy. Harkin also blasted President Bush for today's veto of an unemployment bill that would have extended for 20 weeks jobless benefits.
First Interstate Bank of Iowa is being acquired by a big bank in St. Louis. Boatman's Bank Shares has purchased $134 million of First Interstate stock. That deal should be completed early next year. First Interstate of Iowa has 31 offices and $1.2 billion in assets here in Iowa. Stock market a little higher today. Dow Jones Industrial's up 7 points, average share up 9 cents, volume 146 million shares. New York gold up $1.10 an ounce, silver up 7 cents. Here in Iowa, the cattle market not established and hogs mostly steady. The elevators, corn 5 to 11 cents higher today, soybeans 5 to 6 cents higher. Connie?
Wonderful temperatures for the weekend. Lows tonight in the 40s, tomorrow mostly sunny, highs 65 to 70. Partly cloudy Saturday night, a low near 50, and Sunday partly sunny, a high in the mid-70s. Great weekend for the Covered Bridge Festival in Winterset and the Festival of Iowa Authors at Des Moines Main Library. Enjoy the weekend.
Coming up on the late news after baseball tonight, we'll have complete details of the Thomas hearings that continue at this time, and we will rejoin them in just a few moments. Plus, Michelle Parker with her eye on education. Tonight, a look at the area education agencies. Some say they should be consolidated to save money. That story and more after baseball. Thousands of Americans died during a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor 50 years ago. Work is now underway to build a memorial to honor the Iowa heroes of Pearl Harbor. Ground was broken today for a monument to honor the Iowans who were killed in the Japanese attack on December 7th, 1941. The memorial will be located on the State House grounds and cost about $40,000 to complete. Veterans hope the project will be completed by November, when it will be dedicated.
And that's our news at 6. Thank you for joining us.
We'll see you again tonight after baseball. Stay tuned now for the Daily Deal.
Introducing the new resource in hydration, Hydrative Continuous Hydrating Resource from the laboratories of Lancôme, Paris. Instantly, this velvety formula inundates the skin with hydration. Used daily, Hydrative creates a continuous moist environment in your skin. Hydrative Continuous Hydrating Resource.
The new resource in hydration. Lancôme, Paris.
Le Fleur en Gris, your gift with any $15 Lancôme purchase. Available at Yonkers.
You're on TV8, KCCI-TV, Des Moines.
Good evening, this is Tanya, and welcome to the Daily Deal, the game with more and more winners every day. And a special hello to Bernice Ambrose from Triple E, who won $4,000 by matching 4 cards. Today's cards: 10 of hearts, 4 of clubs, 10 of diamonds, and the 5 of spades. A quick recap: 10 of hearts, 4 of clubs, 10 of diamonds, and the 5 of spades. Remember, play the Daily Deal Monday through Saturday. Good night from the lottery.
Kevin Cooney back at the TVA News Center, and as promised, we are going to rejoin the Senate Judiciary Committee hearings into the nomination of Clarence Thomas. Currently being questioned is Anita Hall, as she has been throughout the day, and Senator Arlen Specter, Republican, is asking the questions. Let's go back to CBS.
At every turn. And I have wondered about the quality of those explanations, candidly. But there is no description for this entire proceeding other than a tragedy. I do not know how Judge Thomas defends himself beyond stepping forward and saying that he's shocked, surprised, hurt, and saddened. And the shortest statute of limitations I've ever heard of is 180 days. Until I got involved in this proceeding, I didn't know there was such a short statute of limitations. Contract cases are 6 years, tort cases are 2 years, criminal cases are 5 years, but the federal law has put that into effect because it is so difficult to defend and to go back and to recollect all that has happened. And I appreciate the stark nature of the statements which have been made. But I also see that in your own statement, which you prepared at your leisure, put aside the FBI statement, you were with 2 people, but no mention about the Coke bottle, no mention about sexual prowess, no mention about other major issues which are in your statement. So that I conclude, looking at this very complex day, on our obligation to try to find out what happened between a man and the woman a long time ago when nobody else was there, that I would agree with you, Professor Hill. It's very difficult for me to understand.
Thank you, Senator. Senator from North Carolina, South Carolina, I beg your pardon.
Don't forget it.
I realize there's certain things I should never say to the senator from South Carolina, and one of them is that he's from North Carolina.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one brief question. Professor Hill, I understand you told the FBI that you have had concerns about the political philosophy of Judge Thomas and what he may no longer, and that he may no longer be open-minded. Is that accurate?
I told them that I did not quite understand, but as they had been represented, yes, that I did have some concerns.
I have the FBI report here. I just wonder if you remember telling them that.
I remember a discussion about political philosophy, and I remember specifically saying that I'm not quite sure that we understand his political philosophies, but based on what I understand, yes, there is some discomfort.
That's all.
Thank you. Now, let me just say, Professor Hill, we have heard, in a sense, half of this story today, all of your story, and we have not heard all of Judge Thomas's story. But I, for one, can assure you that, assuming for the moment what you have said is true, there is nothing hard to understand. Having spent as many years as I have dealing with the issue of victimization of women, it is every single psychiatrist and psychologist who considers themselves expert in the field will point out that the nature of response is not at all atypical, assuming it to be true. And please do not be offended by my saying assuming it to be true. I view myself again here as a finder of fact, and we have yet to hear the whole story from Judge Thomas. This is a tragedy. People keep mentioning that. And my good friend from Iowa hopes that this will never happen again in the sense the way the committee handled it. I must be brutally frank with my colleagues and with everyone else involved. I do apologize to the women of America if they got the wrong impression about how seriously I take the issue of sexual harassment. But I make no apologies for attempting to follow every one of your wishes, because everyone that I have spoken to, again, in the years that I've dealt with this subject, indicate that the most unfair thing to do to a woman in your position is what was done to you. Force you to do something that you did not intend to do. And so I must tell you, I must tell everyone else, I take sexual harassment seriously, but I take your claim and took your claim that you have reasserted here today a half a dozen times, that you did not want this to go public as seriously as I possibly could. And for those who suggest that I should not have, or that there was some way to do it differently and still honor your commitment, I know of no such way to guarantee that your anonymity, to guarantee that you would not have to be in this place at this day. I must tell you, every instinct in me in the world wanted to say to the whole Senate and to the whole world that we should have a hearing on this. But again, we tend to look at large issues and forget individuals. You were the individual in the middle of this. And I will say again to anyone who will listen, as long as I am chairman of this committee, if a person comes to me in a similar circumstance and says repeatedly and in different ways that I have no right, I have no authority to tell their story, to leak their story, to demand that their story be put in a context different than they wish, I will honor that commitment. And I appreciate the fact, and to be very, very blunt about it, I can't tell you how thankful I am, purely from a personal standpoint, and I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway, that you were so straightforward and honest about the way in which this committee handled your request, and so straightforward and honest about, notwithstanding occasional confusion, how you did not decide to do what is being done here, were it not for the fact that it was leaked to a press person, you would not be here today. It seems to me, ultimately, in this great, giant machine we call this nation and this government, that I don't know how we can call ourselves civil libertarians. I don't know how we can call ourselves people interested in the individual if in the name of a larger cause, to justify the ends, we make a judgment for an individual that that individual chooses and has a right not to make. So I must tell you, I admire you. I admire the way you handled this matter once you were confronted with it. As I said to you very bluntly over the telephone, all of us up here choose to be in this business. We choose to be under these lights. We choose to be under the scrutiny of those ladies and gentlemen sitting behind you. We choose to go before the American public and say, judge me. But we have no right to make you choose to do that. And once you chose to do that because you had no choice, you handle it with such grace and such a lean that I can't quite understand how you were able to pull it off, in the sense of walking before all those press people in a press conference and handling the way you did. I don't know 3 candidates in my whole life who could do that, and they've had 27 handlers telling them how to do it. So I don't want to kid anybody. If you came to me again in the same circumstance, and Senator Biden, keep this tight. Do not make it go public. I would do the same thing again. And I thank you for your honesty in laying out just what you did, because you could have very easily said, oh no, I would have come forward no matter what. I was getting ready to do that. And quite frankly, make me look like an idiot and make the whole process look like an idiot. So I thank you very, very much. But most of all, having nothing to do with the process, we can all talk about the process. It's a cumbersome one. But ultimately, it seems to me the purpose of the process is to protect the rights of individuals. I thank you for being willing to be here. I thank you for your testimony. We will now recess. Senator Judge Thomas has indicated, I'll yield just a moment. Judge Thomas has indicated he wants very much to come back on this evening. So we will reconvene this hearing at 9 o'clock and to hear from Judge Thomas. Before we do, I yield to my friend from Alabama who wants to submit to the record some, well, I'll let him say what he wants.
Mr. Chairman, I want to submit certain newspaper articles that have appeared. We will supply to it, but make them for the record. This is from the Washington Post, October the 11th, 1991. The headline is Thomas's View on Harassment, said to evolve from the Baltimore Sun, dated October the 11th, 91, Thomas Hill disputes. From the New York Times on October the 10th, 1991, stark conflict marks accounts given by Thomas and professors. In the Washington Post, same date, conflict emerges over a second witness. From the Washington Post on October the 11th, 1991, Charlotte woman detailed Thomas's conduct. From the New York Times, October the 7th, 1991, law professor accuses Thomas of sexual harassment in 1980s. And from the U.S. News and World Report, September the 16th, 1991, the article titled The Crowning Thomas Affair.
Without objection to be placed to the record again, I thank your family. Yes.
I would just like to take this opportunity to thank the committee for its time, its questions, and its effort that is put into this investigation on my behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Adjourned till 9 o'clock.
About once a decade, the McCarthy hearings in the 50s, the Vietnam War hearings in the 1960s, the Watergate hearings in the 1970s, Iran-Contra in the 1980s, and now in the 1990s. Do you see this kind of drama under the dome of the People's House, the United States Capitol in Washington? Oklahoma law professor Anita Hill accused Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas of vile sexual harassments. Thomas flatly denied any misconduct. This in sworn, televised, broadcast testimony laced with lurid details and powerful drama. Now, for those CBS stations who choose to carry it, there will be an abbreviated edition of the CBS Evening News immediately following this broadcast. Some of your CBS stations will not be carrying that, but for those who do, a shortened version of the CBS Evening News will immediately follow our sign-off here. This concludes our CBS News live coverage of the Thomas nomination hearings. The hearings will resume, as you heard Senator Biden, the chairman, say a moment ago, at 9 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. Because of a CBS Incorporated contract with Major League Baseball, Game 3 of the American League Baseball Championship playoffs will air as scheduled at 8:30 Eastern Time tonight. Obviously, the continuing hearings can be seen on other stations in your area. CBS News will return with coverage of the Thomas hearings tomorrow morning.
This holiday weekend, Carpetland USA has gone half crazy. Because now, through Monday, Carpetland is tagging everything in the store half off. Half off every color and style, half off every roll and remnant, half off every Saxony plush and Berber, half off every DuPont Stainmaster carpet. Plus, make no payment with no interest for 6 months. It's Carpetland USA's half off everything holiday weekend sale. through Monday only. We didn't miss a thing, so don't you miss it.
You're about to experience the power of over 13 Gs. 13862 can launch you into the driver's seat of an Eagle Talon. Get the power of 16 valves, a double overhead cam, and 135 horsepower. All for just over 13 Gs, including cash back. Eagle Talon. It's a force that'll blow you away.
See your Central Iowa Jeep Eagle dealer, where you can expect the best.
Where would you go for a great grilled chicken sandwich? Here's a hint to make an incredible new grilled chicken deluxe and barbecue grilled chicken.
Arby's.
How'd you get it so fast?
Well, you're on time.
Connie McBurney and TV8, where news is #1.
We now join the following program in progress.
My body feels like it's on fire.
Boy, you've really caught a nasty bug.
Please, I'm 84 years old. I feel like this every day.
Never fear, Dr. Rose is here. I made you both an old-fashioned St. Olaf tonic, guaranteed to get you back on your feet and put hair on your chest. That's the one nasty side effect they could never figure out.
I'm feeling better. I think I'll go check the stand. The big beach festival is this weekend. We have to be open for that. If we don't make some money, we'll lose our lease.
Max, it is out of the question. She's right. We're too sick. The dream is ended. It's over.
It's a dirty, rotten shame we couldn't find somebody who could find it in their heart to help this absolutely adorable old couple fulfill their dream of a lifetime.
Oh, all right. We will.
You? Do you have any experience?
No.
You're hired.